But there's only so much that words and chords can do, constructing simple melodies for detailed points of view, riding on a wave of sound to set my spirit free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight with us we have musician Chris Hludzik. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Chris, you have a new album coming out this
Yes.
year entitled Dissonance Meets Harmony.
That's
Can you
right.
tell us a little bit about that album?
Yeah, it's an album of 8 songs, recorded over the course of the last 4 years. Not 4 years completely, obviously, that would be a ridiculous amount of time to record an album, but intermittently here and there I've recorded it between various locations, and I think it's one of the better things I've done musically.
A period of 4 years, but not all of that you spent on the album. Why the long hiatus?
Well, when I started my solo career, I was doing a lot of other things. I was doing a lot of production, a lot of engineering, was collaborating with a lot of other bands, and it just kind of wore on me a little bit, and I kind of got to the point where I hate to say this even, but I hated music. I just got sick of it. I got fed up with it, and I just needed to take a break from it, because I got to a point where I didn't even like music anymore, and I needed to kind of reassimilate myself with music and become a music fan again. Because I've been so focused on being a musician, a producer, an engineer, this and that, whatever, trying to get shows, trying to get my album out, and doing all this stuff, that I lost sight of why I really got into this, and that was because I love music. And so I had to find that again, and once I found it again, I got back into it slowly but surely, and I was able to finish my album up, and here we are.
I think we're all very glad that you're back into it and putting out new material again. With the new album releasing shortly, do you have any particular plans for promotion?
Well, so far I've been sending it out to a lot of radio stations and a lot of reviewers. I've sent it out to a couple places that reviewed my last album, Yours in Rock. I've also sent it out to some internet radio stations, one of which is an internet radio station called NEPA Rebellion, which is hosted by this local musician named Joe Craig. And he's actually been a supporter of mine since the first album. And that was actually when he started NEPA Rebellion Internet Radio, and he played, I guess what you would call the single from my last album, Insomnia. He played that quite extensively, and he's currently playing the single from this upcoming album, which is called For Mercy. And he's also been playing another song called No Chorus, so he's been quite supportive. Alan Stout of 102.3 The Mountain, hopefully will be playing some of my stuff on his Mountain Grown Music Hour on Sunday nights. So I've got some feelers out there, and I also plan on doing a little promotional commercial for the album as well to put on YouTube, just something to get it out there. And I'm definitely doing a lot more for this album than I did for the last album, because I think I have a clearer concept of what I want for this album.
Very good. I'm sure fans will be keeping a sharp eye out for it. Can you tell us a little bit about the recording process for the album?
Well, the recording process was a couple phases. I actually started by myself at my old home studio, and I started out recording a song called No Chorus, which was actually the song that really got the ball rolling. It really set a high standard for the rest of the album, and I recorded that at home. And then for the other songs, I demoed all the songs, as I do with all the songs that I write, and had my friend Brian Brophy lay drum tracks down on them. We recorded them at his house in Montdale, and from there took those drum tracks to Sound Investments Recording Studio in Old Forge, and dumped the drum tracks into Pro Tools, and laid everything else on top of that, vocals, guitars, all that stuff.
So have you had a lot of guest musicians working with you on this?
No, this one's more of like a core band. The last album was really laden with a lot of guest musicians. This one I wanted there to be more of like a band sound. I wanted to have a tighter, more kind of cohesive feel. On this one we have Brian Brophy, of course, playing drums. We have Lenny Mecca from the local group Jigsaw Johnny, and formerly of Jugdish, playing bass on 5 of the album's tracks. I play bass on 2 of the tracks. And then we have Joe Ogleski, who also engineered and mixed the album, playing guitar solos on 3 of the songs, and he's also from Jugdish and Jigsaw Johnny. So it's more of a core band. And we also have Tom Borthwick, who's the owner of Sound Investments, playing accordion on a song.
Wow.
So it's more of a core band, more of a tightly knit kind of a thing.
So you're definitely doing things differently with this release.
Yeah.
With my bleeding ears eyes, I hear the cries of the world, and with my bleeding eyes I could see all the bleeding hearts licking each other's wounds, longing to be free.
So how did you approach songwriting when you were writing on pieces for this album?
I don't really have an approach. I'll have an idea or I'll have a concept. It'll start out in the form of like maybe a line or maybe a whole verse. Maybe it'll be something musical like a riff or a lead line on the guitar, something like that. I've had songs I've written that I came up with the bass line before I came up with anything else, and that helped me, and I evolved the song around that. I don't really have a conventional way I write songs. I just I get an idea and I just kind of roll with it.
Do you ever take time and sit down with the sole intent of writing a song?
No, because when you do that, you never come up with anything. You really don't. I mean, you could, but it's not going to be any good. I find you come up with the best stuff at the most random moments. Like when I was writing For Mercy, for instance, the album single, I was at work and I was in a dump truck. I used to work for a street department, and all we had in the dump truck, I had this idea. I had this lyric in my head, and I was like, "This is a good lyric. I got to write it down." And all we had was like a napkin and like a little pencil or something that like barely had a point on it. And I scribbled it down, and I saved it. And as long as I could get a lyric, as long as I can get a verse or a line or something, I can work off of that. But once you forget it, you lose the song. So typically, I try to capture, the inspiration whenever I get it.
You've pulled together all these spur-of-the-moment ideas and bits of songs that you've worked on to create the album entitled Dissonance Meets Harmony. How do you feel that these songs tie together and relate to dissonance or harmony?
Well, a lot of the songs kind of talk about life and, just going through life. And I mean, I know it's like a cliche thing, but I mean, it's not as cliched as like when other people write about, girls or cars and stuff like that. I write about people. I write about, feelings. I write about emotions. I don't write about anything specific. My writing was more general. It's not about certain people I know. It's about people in general. It's about life in general. And in life, you have good times and you have bad times. And I think if a lot of us had our choice, we would just have good times. But then life really wouldn't be worth living. So you need a little bit of that dissonance to go along with the harmony. And that's pretty much what the album's about. It's about kind of trying to make the two coexist.
I see. The album is 8 songs in length over a span of 25 minutes,
That's
which
right.
many would consider to be pretty short by today's standards. What did you have in mind as far as album flow when you were writing and putting these together?
Well, I don't think of time as being like an important factor in a good album. There have been good long albums and there have been bad long albums. There have been good short albums and there have been bad short albums. I just did what was best for the album. This album was originally intended to have 10 songs. And the two songs that I dropped were actually good songs, but they weren't good for this album. They weren't good for this set of songs. They kind of disrupted the flow. They didn't really jive with the rest of them. So I kind of had to ask myself, well, what do I want? Do I want a longer album that's kind of not as good, or do I want a shorter album that's a little tighter? And I opted for the shorter album that was a little tighter. So basically, for me, it's quality over quantity.
Okay. What would you say your influences were on this new album?
I don't really have any influences. I mean, I'm like anybody else. I have bands and artists that I like, and certain things that I can, draw from. But I don't look at any one artist and say, I want to be like them or I want to sound like them, because that's just, you're copying them at that point, and you're living kind of vicariously through them. I mean, I have my favorite songwriters and bands, but I tend to use them more or less as a yardstick, as like, they set the standard that I aspire to hopefully get to, or at least get close to.
So what you're saying is someone can have inspiration from another musician without being directly derivative of them.
Absolutely. Because all you have to do is, look at what they've done and look at what you want to do, and try to, make yourself want to, better yourself, up your game, basically. And that's basically what I did in this album. I wanted to just up my game. I wanted to just get the songwriting to a different level, get the lyric to a different level, get the music to a different level, get the playing to a different level, the production. I just wanted to up everything. It's evolution, really.
All right. Well, Chris, we're about out of time here. Thank you very much for speaking with us this evening.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we have a couple of performances coming up soon.
That's right.